just quit if it does. But anyway, again, John West I'm the Midwest agronomist for Ceres Imaging. And again, my counterpart, Sarah Bratschun in the back, she's one of our remote sensing scientists out of Fort Collins, Colorado. So again, we're an ag tech startup founded in 2013 in the Bay Area. Our founder, I don't want to get too close to that. Our founder obviously has an extensive remote sensing background and was helping almond growers on the West Coast navigate drought in 2013. And that's really where the company cut its teeth in California as well as Pacific Northwest. First push into the Midwest was probably really spring of 2019. Row crops like corn, beans, and cotton. And as it's kind of taken that a little bit further, we've expanded into not only the United States but Australia, and we run analytics on 30 different crops. So just a brief view of kind of our sensor array. Again, it's a proprietary build, looking at certain bands of infrared light, thermal imagery, and also producing RGB images. But I'll just jump ahead. But generally, the purpose in the pudding here, as far as the images go, so we, baseline is color infrared, multispectral data, as I had mentioned before. And it's really, I actually like looking at color infrared just to get a baseline of the images as I'm looking through them. And again, we use infrared to produce the other layers, not necessarily the thermal, but to produce NDVI, and then it also goes into our chlorophyll index. Chlorophyll index, again, it's kind of our niche in the marketplace. As I said, we're collecting multispectral data. One of which, we're collecting red edge. We're the only providers in the marketplace collecting red edge. The big difference here is like in corn, an NDVI image tends to wash out or saturate at rapid growth stages. The chlorophyll index is really actually more of a measure of chlorophyll in the plant as opposed to biomass. Most of your NDVI measurements aren't biomass measurement. Like I said, once we're looking at chlorophyll, it really looks more into what the plant is producing, nitrogen contents, things like that. So, and then the images are core thermal, accuracy down to plus or minus 1 degree Celsius per pixel. Am I right, Sarah? But very high resolution thermal image, and really how we use this image is, especially on a center pivot, if we've got nozzle issues, pressure issues, regulator issues, most of that stuff pops right out. And again, not to knock NDVI, but a lot of times if you're seeing rings or some other things going on in NDVI, you've already incurred yield loss. I like to call a thermal image kind of a look into the crystal ball. So from the time that you start watering, we can tell if there's issues. And a lot of times gives you an opportunity to make a correction with the irrigation system before any yield losses occurs. And then we take the thermal image a step further into what we call our water stress layer. And really what this is I don't know if I'm the best to give you the best explanation, but it's a hybrid image. We look at stress in an NDVI and then also correlate that to we correlate that, correlate stress in NDVI to how the thermal image looks. So here, obviously, pivot's running out in front of the pivot. We're getting stressed, getting dry, and then like I say, we're just trying to correlate the stress that we see in NDVI to what we see in the thermal image. Is the stress being caused in the crop either by a drought or is it being caused by oversaturation? A lot of the images we saw in 2019 were probably more so oversaturation than say drought, but this is kind of the nature of the beast. And then just quickly, any one of our images can be ran through our variable rate application tool, exported as a shapefile, uploaded into a controller, or any of the precision ag software that you might be using, Field Analytics, Summit, anything like that. So, and really, again, what we're trying to do with our water stress layer is help folks manage water. Just in this example, Have some pressure issues along the pivot, over applying on the outer two spans. In a perfect world, we try to keep things in greens and light blues. If we start approaching dark blue, purple, we're getting oversaturated, and again, reds and yellows, getting some drought stress. This is an interesting slide. I've seen mosaics from Finney County, Kansas, Hastings, Nebraska area. Generally 1 in 5 pivots has an issue, whether it's regulator, pressure, nozzle. I've even seen it as high as every 1 in 4 pivots. But the numbers I used earlier, I don't know if they fit western Nebraska all that well, but at least southwest Kansas, I know guys are spending about $8 an acre for water per revolution. Across a 125 acre pivot, that equals $1,000. So if you're spending $1,000 per revolution, we're just doing our very best to help you guys make the best of the money that you're spending. Research-driven company. Again, as I said, Ceres in the back, she's one of our remote sensing scientists. We're one of the only companies in the marketplace that I know of. We have an agronomy staff as well as a science staff. We're working very closely with not only Nebraska, K-State, OSU, Arizona, Texas A&M. They're trying to obviously validate the data that we're providing for growers, and make sure that we're producing sound science and sound imagery. So I'll just skip past this a little bit. But again, equipment issues. Sometimes this is what I call spoking, and sometimes this can be a mechanical issue. A lot of times, early in the spring, when growers are making those fast passes to incorporate not insecticides, but herbicides, to incorporate herbicide, it'll make a fast pass. The faster that pivot's moving, a lot of times you'll see that spoking appears. And then here, obviously, we're seeing some rings in the water stress and some over application on the far right. But again, as soon as that pivot starts watering, you can get an idea of the performance and hopefully make corrections before any yield loss occurs. Same thing in subsurface drip. Anytime you have leaks or again some valve issues, kinks in the hose, whatever might be going on, we can get a nice soil signature with our thermal image and help lead you in the right direction as far as getting those equipment issues fixed. This kind of goes into a little more detail. This is an NDVI image on the left, chlorophyll on the right. As I said, at rapid growth stages, NDVI tends to saturate or wash out. The chlorophyll index helps us, keep the variability still there in the field. It helps us portray the variability that's still going on, even though the NDVI is saturated and washed out. And then just a little bit about variable rate. This is a tweet I saw going on 2 years ago, and I guess it is 2 years old now. But one way to make it far more profitable is to take the poorest 10% of every field and stop treating it like the best 10%. Understand its limitations and adjust accordingly. And really that's what we're trying to do with imagery, is just help you guys optimize inputs. Whether you're using imagery for irrigation management or even nutrient management, we're trying to give you a good idea of those acres that are putting dollars in your pocket as opposed to those acres that might be pulling dollars out and treating them accordingly. This is one thing I like to point out. A lot of times imagery, especially in corn, you can see same things in cotton. Obviously you guys aren't interested in cotton this far north, but this happens to be a V6, V7 image, and generally that early season, I call it the early season yield map that pops out. And this was obviously the yield map, not quite the resolution I would like to see in the yield map, but you can obviously see the stark similarities. And I talked about rapid growth stages. A lot of times that early season yield map, it goes away as the crop progresses, but obviously as it starts to senesce, this image will come back, and it's a very good predictor of yield. And then again, taking images and being able to create management zones. We can do that either by in-crop imagery, or we're also working on doing bare soil images, creating zones much like bears, but that's still in the testing phase, I'll say. I kind of want to see it go through, progress through the growing season. And then again, same image, very indicative of yield, gives you an opportunity whether you're making barrel rate side dresses or even helping you make those decisions for fertigation passes and whatnot. Imagery flows right into JD Ops, also flows into climate very easily, just easily connected via your username and password. And then just wanted to mention that Ben with Trellis and I started talking at a meeting in Kansas. So the information that we gained from not only the UNL TAPS program, but the OSU TAPS program, as well as the Kansas Water Tech Farms, will be having a collaborative relationship and trying to learn. So just trying to work together and better serve the growers. But with that, I'll wrap up. That's my contact information. I'll be around through dinner here, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But otherwise, appreciate the time for being here and appreciate the opportunity to get 2 takes. So thank you.
Any quick questions for John? All right, thanks, John.